Rod, you are up next, sir.
Hey, Bart, how you doing?
Rod, so this is the first time you're on the show?
Yeah, I've sit in a couple hands
Okay.
and they didn't make the.
They didn't make the cut.
This one I think did, and this one kind of it's funny because you're talking about old men on the previous call. I'm 58, so I get a lot of that as well. But I don't. I hate the conversation about how old guys play because I try not to play that way, and I think you'll see that from this call or from this particular hand.
Yeah, but one thing though, Rod, here I always tell Mike G that, and he was talking about, he made a great thing that he came up with on his podcast a few weeks ago. And he made the analogy where he doesn't show his bluffs, he only shows his good hands. Not that Mike G is not an old man, but he likes to have that godlike image that I talk about. And you talk about it being like play action in football, where you're constantly showing the goods, then you get a fake handoff and you're bluffing, but you don't show it. The thing about being if people perceive you to be an OMC, you can really, really use that to your advantage. There's nothing wrong with people thinking you're an OMC and you're really not. So I would try to not let people know that you're not.
Yeah. Well, this hand is gonna like play right into that. So I think this is a great example, and it's at California Grand, which is in the Bay Area, Northern California.
Yep.
And it's 235. There's a $10 straddle.
235 with the small on the button, right?
Yeah, small on the button. $10 straddles on. It's been straddling half the time. I usually straddle. The villain in this hand is the straddler, so he's in the straddle.
Under the gun, right? Under the gun.
Yep,
Yeah.
under the gun. $1,000 max.
1,000 max. Okay, so not that deep.
No, 1,700 effective. That's me. I'm the effective stack.
Okay.
I got 1,700. He's got me covered on UTV +1.
Okay.
All right. So just like the previous hand, what do I open? I open pocket sixes.
Okay.
So red sixes. I open that to 30 under the gun. Not a lot of three betting in this game. I usually play with my son, who's 22, and he three bets me relentlessly.
Really? You guys play hard against each other?
Yeah,
Really?
like he usually to my left, and I have to be careful about what I open because he's always three betting me. But he wasn't there this evening, so
I mean, some guys go, it's so funny you mentioned that because some guys go either way with this. Whenever I have a buddy at the table, I'm not soft playing them, but I'm not going after them necessarily. I don't battle with them. I mean, it's rare, but then some friends love to battle each other. It's just a father-son duo. But all right, so you go to 30. Is that about the standard open size?
yeah, that's the standard open when the straddle's on. Folds around to the button, he calls.
All right, so the button calls.
Big blind calls.
Okay.
Straddle calls.
So big blind and straddle call. So it's four ways, like 125 or something like that.
Yeah, call it 120. They take, $7 or something like that.
Flat drop in California. Yep. Okay.
All right, so the flop comes queen of diamonds, four of spades, three of hearts.
Queen of diamonds, four of spades, three of hearts. So again, it's a four-way pot. Queen of diamonds, four of spades, three of hearts. Hero with pocket sixes from +1. Okay.
Yeah, so I just range bet here. I bet 1/3 pot. I go with 40.
So the blinds check.
Yeah, they've checked to me, and I bet 40.
All right, so let's not shortcut this though. Blinds check. Hero bets 40. And what I mean by not shortcut this is that you say you range bet. There's three other people in the hand though, Rod. Like, I don't know if you're range betting like four ways, like on any type of board. Now, with that being said, your hand has some interesting properties because it does need some protection. Obviously, you've got second pair to the board. I think it's really close. I like betting into two people. Three people gets a little bit dicey in this particular spot. Now, it's kind of weird because you're in the middle, right? So the blinds are sort of auto-checking to you. You said you might have like an OMC type of image. If you check, the button might check behind, but then you don't really have a whole lot of visibility on a lot of turn cards either because of the fact that, you've got pocket sixes. So I can get on board here with a bet of 1/3 to almost buy yourself position here too, because the button almost has to have a queen here to call you. Like, I suppose the button, like if he's got like 7s through 10s, can call, but it's still pretty dicey. Multi-way theory, people don't understand how tight that button is supposed to defend with two guys behind that are auto-checking to you. I mean, you can easily make a case that 9s is a fold. They're using 1/3 sizing. So I think it's pretty close. So you bet 40. I just want to say I don't shortcut, say range bet like into four people. That's all.
Yeah, and I guess what I was thinking about when I opened this hand was, people are going to put me on the upper right, left hand of the range, right? Like ace, king, aces, kings, queens, right? I'm opening under the gun and straddle pot in a 10-handed game, right? So,
Oh, it's 10-handed? 10-handed.
yeah, it was 10-handed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that might even be a little bit of a light open from up front, because the reason why I say that is because you're opening into, you're the first to act, and you're opening into all these unknown hands 10-handed. It's interesting. There's no ante out there, but anyways. Yeah, so you're saying that you might get better to fold? Is that what you're saying?
I might get bet. Well, I was thinking I was going to take this for 3 streets as a bluff, right? Because people are going to
Okay.
put me on to the previous caller, being older, 58, they're going to put me on aces, kings, queens, and I might be able to drive a 3 street bluff here.
Well, I mean, driving somebody off a top pair is definitely tricky at this level, and I think it really depends on like who calls, what position they call. Sometimes you can actually leverage multiple callers. Like if you bet and the button and say like the big blind call and the turn is a 9 and like you bet again and you have an OMC image, like you might get me to fold like queen jack or something on the button with a guy behind me. But anyways, you bet 40 on queen 4-3 rainbow. Okay.
Yeah, button folds,
Okay. That's good.
and the big blind and the straddle both call.
All right. So big blind and straddle call. All right. So 40, 80, 120. The pot now is 240. So these guys can be a little bit wider. Like I think the most troubling spot for you would be the button calling next to act, because that should be so much queen X. That didn't happen. The straddle can be wide anyways. He's getting a price. And even though people are supposed to, again, not really supposed to be probably overcalling much, I suppose maybe 5-4 with a backdoor as an overcall, maybe. But again, you'd be surprised multi-way theory. They don't necessarily, and the big blind doesn't necessarily have to have a queen. So you could be in a leveraging spot here. The pot is $240, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right. The turn comes the 10 of clubs.
All right. So I said 9, right?
Okay.
This is 10. The only difference between a 9 and a 10 is that when people are V-pipping queen X, you might run into some queen 10 as opposed to queen 9. Although some people might play queen 9. But you will hear from people, yeah, this is an interesting little spot. Okay, did they both check to you again?
Yeah, they both check to me, and I'm going to continue barreling. So I went 100. I think that was a mistake. I think I should probably went 200 into 240.
Well, again, it's multi-way, but usually you take larger sizing on a card that does not connect with the board, like a 10. I mean, a 10 is sort of a pure brick here. You didn't necessarily pick up any equity. Yeah, I would probably go larger here. You get into like, again, the live paradox. I've talked about this a lot in the show. Even if you were to take larger sizing here, let's say you bet 200 or 250, right? And then one guy called you. The paradox in live poker is, say the river's like an 8, right? And they check to you and you run a triple barrel. The problem is they don't know that you would play aces, kings, and ace queen like a good CLPer. And they'll call down with one pair because if they put themselves in your spot, they wouldn't bet one pair. So you must be bluffing. You see what I'm saying? So whether or not you want to double barrel here, I agree. It probably should be larger. And then I would seriously, hopefully you get one call. And then, yeah, I might triple off depending on, you get a lot of good rivers for you. I would say, obviously, a jack would be one of the good ones representing ace king. Somebody might run into queen jack. A king would probably be decent, and then an ace too. So, but you bet 100, okay?
Yeah, I went 100 and I got called by the big blind in the straddle again.
Oh, well. I mean, that's real dicey now. Big blind
Yeah.
and straddle call. It's interesting because, like, what is this? So so you're sure that the turn did not bring any type of backdoor. This is very important too for hand reading.
No, it did not.
Because if it brought a backdoor, that actually might even be better. I think it is better for you because it widens the turn calling range. If a backdoor flush draw came in, because then someone could have a straight draw and a flush draw, and then that breaks out. The fact that both of these guys have called again, I mean, you would think somebody's got to have a queen here. Now, can you put pressure on a queen? Again, usually this game at this level is mostly value, but if you had, quite the image. So 1, 2, 3. So now it's 540.
Yeah, 540. And with the calls, I'm with you. I was like shutting it down at this point. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna get my triple barrel through. But the river comes a jack.
So just like a inconsequential
Jack of
suit.
hearts.
Right, jack of hearts. So queen of diamonds, 4 spades, 3 of hearts, turns the 10 of clubs. River here is the jack of hearts. The only thing that I'm going to say here is that, well, actually, you know what? I mean, some people might say, one of your opponents might be like, well, yeah, ace king comes in, but is this guy really betting like ace king, like, on the flop and on the turn? But it's not unreasonable, right? I mean, you should, if you started a c-bet, right, with like ace king suited in a backdoor, if you did start a c-bet with those hands, although a lot of times ace king is taken for a check, but if you did, you would barrel this turn. Or like ace jack, something like that. So the only thing, like I said, that is a little bit troubling here, just in a very subtle way, as Reddit would say, getting into the weeds of combinatorics, is that if somebody is v-pipping a queen here, although the guy is in the straddle, so he's last to act, but normally people are going to v-pip like queen 10 plus. So now you're running into queen 10, queen jack, and what you're trying to fold out is king queen. So, and it's possible, but I'm just saying that, it definitely can be dicey against two people here.
Yeah, but this was the plan, so I'm going for it now because that was the one card that I can represent ace king on. Otherwise, I was going to shut it down. So,
well, what if a king had come at the end or an ace and they checked to you?
I just felt like there was a lot of two pair represented on the turn with both players calling me. That was my concern. Like you're talking about queen 10. I just felt like I was up against that with at least one of the two players.
On the turn, you don't think someone's going to raise? I'm not really all that concerned with queen 10 when they just call. I mean, there's a chance, but I think it's more now like the jack comes in and someone's got queen jack, but they're not going to just lead into ace king.
Yeah.
I mean, the same could be said, though, for, if a king were to come, someone could have king queen, or less so, though, I would say, with an ace. People aren't always 3-betting off ace queen. All right, so the pot's 540. Did they both check to you again?
Big blind checks. Straddle now donks into me for 250.
Oh, wow. So the straddle, that's 250. Wow. What is the deal with the straddle?
I don't know. He was there for a couple of hours, was a 20-something Asian kid. I got into one pot with him. Interestingly, I had ace king, and he's to my right, and I was a pre-flop raiser, and he donked into me on the flop. It was a queen eye flop, similar to this board. He donked into me with one of these small sizes. I called with ace king. He donked a turn. I called again, and the river paired the queen, and he donked into me for a third time. And I just assume, okay, two queens out there. He doesn't have a queen. I just called him because it was such a small bet, and he turned over pocket twos for a set because he flopped a set. So he just played 3 streets donking into me when I had ace king earlier in the session. So donking was not a surprise to me.
Well, it's when you said Asian kid, it kind of perked up. Like he's a younger guy?
Yeah, he's got headphones on. He's he's not talking.
So the reason why I ask you that, because there's one very, very important thing here too. Like if it was an older guy or something like that, when the straddle donks in here on this run out, you might be concerned. Might be concerned if it's an older guy that he has ace king himself. But if this is a younger Asian like guy, like an Asian like headphones guy, and you open from +1 to 30, the button, the big blind call, I feel like he's always going to 3-bet off here with ace king. This is not consistent with a guy that has ace king. That would be my number one concern here. It's funny, it seemed like you were going to go for it now, and I was kind of questioning whether it would get through. This might actually be the best case scenario for you. If you can discount the fact that this guy ever has ace king here, and I'm looking at the other straights that are out there, and none of them make any sense, right? There's no flush draw, so king 9 and 8 9, not possible, right? It's queen of diamonds, 4 spades, 3 of hearts, unless somehow he's like peeling some absurd hand like king 9 of diamonds as an overcall or something like that on the flop, which he really shouldn't be. So I'm not going to make that like a big part of his range. This really could be the best case scenario for you because it kind of seems to me like this is a lot of two pair. Like maybe he rivered queen jack and he's going to like bet fold. I don't know. If it had gotten checked to me, I don't know if I would have gone for it. But now I feel like I might go for it. If you're saying you might have the OMC image here.
Yeah, I don't, because I've been playing with these guys and they've seen me play. But sitting down at the table, that's what people would think when they looked at me. But I'm with you. I'm going for it.
Well, I mean, there's some people here in the live chat, and I spam stuff, saying queen jack is going to call if he jams. Well, we don't know that, but it certainly seems like from an older guy's perspective, our boy Rod here says that he might have a slight OMC type of image here. He's got stack depth, right? I mean, you've only bet 100 on the turn and you bet 40 on the flop and you raise. So, I mean, you've got like over 1,500 to start the river, right?
Right.
So he bets 250 into like 540. If you were to call, the pot would be 1,000 and your jam, would be another 1,250. I mean, the only thing that can be said here is that, is it possible that you just actually raise a little bit less? This is another sort of live paradox where you'd say, well, you want to take the bet sizing. That's the maximum, right? To polarize, to give the guy a worse price. But the little weird thing about live poker is sometimes like raising to, say, 1,100 to 1,200 as opposed to jamming for 1,500 might actually look scarier.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was doing, because I've heard you talk about that in the past. So I was thinking about jamming for 1,500, but what I settled on was 1,000. So I raised.
Oh, okay. I
1,000.
I thought 1,000 at first. The only I know I just said 1,100, but the only thing that I would say about 1,000 is now the pot's going to be 1,800, and it's 750 for him to call. That's kind of why I might arrive at like 1,200. Just little subtle things. I don't know if that's quite large enough. Maybe. But I kind of like going a little bit larger, but not all in. But okay, so hero raises to 1,000.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big. I mean, I've never seen anyone raise to that amount in this game. I haven't played it a lot, but it's a lot for this particular game. So the table sort of perked up at that point when I shoved in my like 7 $100 chips plus 3 stacks of red. Big blind, snap folds in disgust. Not sure what he had.
Okay.
Straddle stands up sort of in agony. And as I'm pushing my chips out across the line, there's just a lot of noise at the table because I bet $1,000. I didn't hear it, but the dealer says to me, "Did you hear him? He went all in."
The straddle went all in?
Yeah. The dealer says to me, in a way to encourage me to call, right? Because I think everyone at the table figures I have ace king. The dealer says to me, "Did you hear him? Because he said all in," as he's putting the chip out. And clearly I'm not going to call an all in, right? With pocket sixes on that board.
I mean, here's the thing, like, the straddle should not be going all in with any hand except ace king. Because unless somehow like you had 10-10 here, and the reason why I'm not saying you have jack-jack, because I don't think you play it this way, but somehow if you had like 10-10 here and you thought that you were trying to get some like squeaky value from two pair. By the way, what do you think if you got led into here on the river and you were thinking about value raising with not a straight, would you rather have queen queen or would you rather have 10-10?
10-10.
And why is that, Rod? That's correct.
Just guess. So yeah, why don't you tell me?
Well, because it gives you the opportunity for your opponent to have more queens up, right?
Oh, gotcha.
That's what you want, right? Now, if you've got queen queen, I think that's less of a raise, right, at the end. So I guess the guy just has ace king. So I assume you folded, right?
Yeah, I folded my sixes up. Everyone was shocked that I, ran triple barrel, bet on 1,000 on the river with pocket sixes on the board. Although they all said they assumed I had ace king. And the guy who went all in shows queen 10 offsuit.
What?
So I had a conversation with my son. I told you he plays in this game with me the next morning. And I walked him through this. He said, I would bet that the guy didn't read the board. Like
Oh
he
my
didn't
God. What is this?
see.
The bizarro world of Collins here today?
I mean, how do you not see that on that board? And I was an under the gun raiser that ace king is what I got. So why would you go all in? Worst case, he should just call,
Of
right?
course. What is the what?
So I think I got called by somebody who thought he had the nuts.
Thought he had the nuts with queen 10 on queen 4 3 10 jack?
Yes.
That is bizarre. Listen, the results don't matter. The results don't matter. Obviously, if this guy can't even fucking read the board, you're probably not going to get him off with a triple barrel if he checked you. I almost think that this was almost the best case scenario for what you were trying to set up, though. You know what I mean? But I chalk that one up. If you play with that guy again, I mean, you can't say like he knows what's going on.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
That is insane. Rod, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it.